Thank you for coming on this beautiful, warm-ish, sunny day in February, something that you can never count on when you have an event in February. But we're so glad that the universe is shining on CST today. So good to see everybody. My name is Sammy Khan. I'm the Executive Director of the Council on Science and Technology, or CST at Princeton. And it's my pleasure and honor to welcome you to our 35th anniversary celebration. Woo! Now, as festive as an occasion this is, I will share with you privately that there was actually some controversy associated with this event. Ooh, and that's the controversy. And the controversy, or the question, was, if you are an entity that's founded through a generous gift by Dr. Anthony B. Edwin in 1989 on a date certain, but that entity doesn't actually come into being until the 1989-1990 academic year. The question is, do you celebrate your birthday on the date of the gift? Do you celebrate your anniversary years, starting from 89-90? There was even a suggestion of borrowing from the French and celebrating our anniversaire so that it's sort of birthday and anniversary. What do you do? Well, if you are the CST, you do what we always do, which is we discuss, we debate, we grapple, but ultimately we come up with, I think, is always a win-win solution. So what we landed on, of course, was we have been celebrating our wonderful 35th year all year. We have chosen this wonderful date to celebrate our anniversary year, and today you're going to get a really big birthday cake too. So it's a win-win-win celebration. So now I can officially welcome you to our 35th anniversary with big birthday cake celebration. So happy to have you all here. You know, CST's mission is to advance STEM literacy across the university and beyond. To us, this very critical mission is about ensuring that everyone in the Princeton University community can recognize, apply, and appreciate science in their everyday lives, in their work, and in society, perhaps more important now than ever. We do this in so many ways, and you're going to get to hear about those ways through, first, our panel of luminaries, our CST current and former directors. We're so grateful for their leadership. You're also going to be hearing from some outstanding CST-aligned students tonight. And after that, we're going to have a celebration in the forum where you'll have a showcase of our events and programs and courses to give you just a taste of some of what CST does. But I just wanted to share with you all that we could do none of this were it not for all of you. Our friends, our collaborators, our colleagues, our supporters, we're so very grateful to you for all you do to help us with this work. It truly is not hyperbole for me to say that I think there's no place on the earth better situated to do the work that we do than Princeton University. We're so grateful to do that because of all of our colleagues here. So with that in mind, I would like to introduce a VIP supporter of the CST, our very own Dean Michael Gordon, who is the Dean of the College. He is also the Rosengarten Professor of Modern and Contemporary History and a former executive committee member of the CST. He's going to have introduce a little bit about the CST to you and also introduce our panel. So thank you so much, everybody. And Michael, thank you so much for being here.
It's good to see everyone. I'm going to start by, so Sammy, of course, designs the program and doesn't leave any place to thank Sammy. So please, everybody, give a round of applause to Sammy Khan. That's not adequate, but I'll start there because I know I'm on a clock that Sammy gave me of what I am not required, but delighted to say. So I did serve on the executive committee of CST for 5 years, starting in 2016, and it was an important mechanism for me to understand the rich number of ways that this institution contributes to the university and science across the university and science knowledge and the humanities in many, many different facets. So the way I have parsed it is CST's important and really multifaceted role at Princeton over the many years has been to do a number of different things. It's a steward of our science and engineering course requirement, which is a very important function. It's a partner in developing exciting new curricular options even beyond that. It's an advocate for STEM literacy inside and outside the university. It's a financial supporter of innovative interdisciplinary faculty projects. And it's an incubator for many new ideas and initiatives across campus. It has done all of those things. The emphasis on those has changed and grown and expanded over the years. And each of those missions is extremely prominent, and you see the way it has impacted science and engineering as that has grown in importance and visibility on the campus, especially over the last decade. It's been particularly exciting for me as a historian of science to reflect on the transformations represented by the group of 4 people that I am about to introduce. These are a series of directors who have seen and nurtured CST through many different incarnations and emphases over time. And then I'm going to turn things over to the panel. So the first person to introduce, I don't know, do you come up now or do you come up at the end? I think you come up now, and that way people will be able to, Sammy says now, so you should all listen to that. First is Shirley Tilghman, who was director of CST. She served from 1993 to 2000, and she literally needs no introduction. She left CST to become the president of some institution. She is a distinguished professor of molecular biology and public affairs, and she was, of course, Princeton's 19th president. Indeed, she was the president when I arrived at Princeton, so she's like always been my personal president. No shade on the current president. I first saw her in action when I was a postdoc at Harvard, right before moving down here, which is right before she began starting her presidency. And she gave a talk about gene imprinting that still resonates for me as an exemplar of the kind of spirit of science communication that is embodied by this institution. I remember the Liger and the Tyon in particular. The next person I want to introduce is Neta Bahcall, who is the Eugene Higgins Professor of Astrophysics. You should come up, Neta. And Neta directed CST from 2000 to 2008. Like President Tilghman, she is a keen advocate for women in science, and she's done pioneering work on cosmic cartography of the universe at the largest scales. Since I promised Sammy I would give a fun fact about everybody who I'm introducing, Neta and I had the pleasure of co-advising a senior thesis with Neta a few years ago when an astronomy senior opted to write a history of astronomy thesis, which again exemplifies, I think, the interdisciplinarity that the people associated with CST really shine at. And throughout, her openness and enthusiasm were infectious. Third is Naomi Leonard, who is the Edwin S. Wiley Professor of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. She is now also the chair of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, and she was the director of CST during my entire time on the executive committee. The CST as I knew it was her CST. She is a highly original researcher on robotic control who draws upon biological models of behavior, and so she is also deeply invested in engineering and the arts, and in many ways, the ways engineering can engage with and expand our appreciation of so many aspects of our life and of nature. So it's wonderful to see you. And finally, Maria Garlock, who is going to moderate this panel as soon as I am done. She is the Daniel Tsui Professor of Engineering and is currently the interim director of CST. Maria has long been a member of the executive committee of CST, devoting her time to this group alongside her many, many other university commitments, including serving as head of Forbes College, which she still is right now, and I interact with her a lot on that front. She's a structural engineer with a strong aesthetic sense and is as attentive to how buildings and bridges provide grace, as well as how to give them stability. And with that, I would like to turn it over to the panel. Thank you all for coming to celebrate this really remarkable organization.
Is this working? It is. Okay. Thank you, Michael, for those introductions. And thank you, former directors, for being here. I'm actually really excited to hear what you're going to say, your points of views about the CST. And I'd like to begin the conversation. So hopefully this is more of an informal conversation about the CST being timeless yet evolving, which sounds like an oxymoron, but what I mean is that the mission is timeless. You heard Sammy say what the mission is today, and what the mission was in the academic year 89-90, it was, quote, to promote a better understanding of the critical roles of science and technology in all aspects of human endeavor. So it's very, very similar to the mission. We have many more words to say the same thing today, but it is the same mission. What has changed or what has evolved is maybe the methodology, the kinds of outreach that we have on campus. So that has evolved, yet again, the mission is timeless. So I want to go in chronological order, starting with Shirley. And I would like to hear from you about the nature of CST's work when you were director. And what do you see as the major contributions of CST to the university and beyond during your tenure? What were the major changes and impacts during your tenure?
Well, I should probably begin as a founding member of the CST. The first director was the great Dave Wilkinson, professor of physics, who was just extraordinary, I can tell you. But the genesis of the CST really came out of student surveys that were conducted in the late 1980s, where students were asked about their academic experience. And to all of our dismay, those of us who are scientists and engineers, the worst ratings were given to the courses that students were required to take to satisfy the science requirement. And it wasn't even close. I mean, it was clear that as a faculty, we were not serving students well when it came to providing opportunities for them to engage with science as humanists, as social scientists, individuals who were not going to concentrate in science. So Nancy Malkiel, who was dean of the college at the time, created the CST and asked us to think long and hard about the kinds of courses that the faculty could create that would actually be engaging, interesting, and meaningful to students who had no intention of being scientists. And it was great fun doing that, I have to say. And if I had to say what was the most exciting thing about those first few years, it was really getting together once a month, a group of faculty talking about pedagogy. Honestly, this wasn't happening, as far as I could tell, anywhere on campus. But suddenly there we were, once a month, really trying to think about, well, how would you design a course that would be engaging and meaningful, and that was not simply, diluted version of the first course that a major might take, for example. So for me, at the very beginning, we had a blank slate. There really, you could probably count on one hand the courses that would satisfy all of my fellow directors here today when they were reviewing the course. They just didn't exist. So we had to create them. And that, for me, was the best part about being involved with the CST in the beginning.
Yeah, that's great. I'll just add that I arrived at Princeton in 2002, so you were my president, just like Michael. And I remember interviewing here at this great research institution, and in comparison to the other interviews I had this sense of what you just said, that teaching was important, pedagogy was important. So whatever you were doing before you became president of the CST, I felt it as someone who was interviewing here. So thank you. Neta?
So I followed Shirley. Can you hear me? Is that working? So I followed Shirley when Shirley became president. I'm not sure exactly how I got onto the council. I don't think I served on the council before, but I I've been the director of the undergraduate program in astrophysics for a while now and connected with the colleges. And I was asked, I don't remember by whom, to chair the council. And of course, I knew Shirley and what she has done. And I knew our good colleague Dave Wilkinson before her and what he has done with the council. And I thought that was just a tremendously exciting opportunity to help and continue that very important project of expanding and extending the STEM education on campus. So in addition to the important work of creating new courses, supporting courses that would reach to the entire student population, our goal was to reach the entire student population, that everybody who graduates from Princeton will understand the basics of science, that understand how the sun shines, that understand what causes day and night, just the basic daily things that every intelligent person should understand. We created another program, maybe it started at your time, I'm not sure, but we have expanded it. We created the Council on Science and Technology Teaching Postdoctoral Fellowship Program.
I started, yeah.
So it started and it was maybe 1 or 2, and we expanded it into a full program where we had about 20 or so at any given time. We had about 6 per year for 3 years, something like that. So it was between 15 and 20 highly selected top scientists who were very interested in teaching, who were also top teachers as TAs or whatever they taught before. And we created a family of this teaching postdoctoral fellowship that it ran throughout my entire time. So it was from 2000, 2008. Shortly after that, it kind of fell apart. I'm not sure exactly why. But then,
but Bonnie's not here, so I'll be able to tell you.
But that was a highly successful program, which we really enjoyed. The way it worked is we advertised, had a large number of applications, about 100 to 150 at every given year for this sort of 6th position. Those were postdoc fellows, council postdoc fellows that were co-sponsored with any of their STEM departments, engineering, math, and science department. They were cost-shared between the department and the council. And those fellows would co-teach or teach a course in the sciences geared for a broader audience, and they'll do research with some faculty, some scientists in their department. Some of you who served on the council then remember that. And though all of those fellows, or most of them, I've not followed all of them, have now become distinguished faculty members at top universities and outstanding teachers. Some of them are distinguished faculty at our university. So for example, one of them was Frederick Simons, who was faculty at the Geo department. Some that were Astro in my department fellows are distinguished faculty elsewhere, Mark Kuchner, Brenda Fry, who just visited here, Josh Wynn, who is now faculty in our department. So these are really, you see how successful they have been and outstanding teachers. One of them in biology was, I just looked it up, Heather Thiniger, and she became, I remember she took, her course she started teaching was MOL 101, DNA to Complex Humanity. And she has become a university lecturer now, and still is here in biology. The benefit of this postdoctoral program was just a win-win for everybody. It was a win for the postdoctoral fellow. They loved the program. It was a win for the students here because we brought young people who really cared about teaching to teach new courses and to participate in research. It was a win for the departments who got, outstanding postdocs to work with them both on research and teaching. And we tried to create, like I said, a family where we had meetings with our postdoc fellow, all of them together. A couple of times a month, we would have lunch talks with them. We would do social events. We also connected with the Council on the Humanities Postdocs to try and I tried to create something like, some of you are familiar with the Harvard Society of Fellows, where you get together and have lectures and talks and events. And that program worked very well. We were very happy with that. In addition, we continued this wonderful program of courses, many exciting courses. I remember some of them, like the chemistry of chocolate. I mean, that was a fabulous course, and you got to sample all this chocolate done with chemistry.
I think we still do that, no? Chemistry of chocolate?
Is it still being done?
Yeah, it's still being done, yes, yes.
So that started then, and it was just
Great.
fantastic. One of the top courses.
And the chemistry of cheese and the chemistry of
Coffee.
coffee, yes.
Yes,
It's called
that's right.
brainy bites is what we call these groups of programs that we have now. So very similar.
And it's, I find it really important, especially when we want to reach out to non-science
Yes.
students, which is so important, is to reach out with something that is exciting and
Yes.
fun and practical so they understand daily.
And it's science
daily
in every
life.
day. And I think that's one of the goals is to illustrate through the
Yes.
CST that you're surrounded by science and technology and to even that bite of chocolate, there's science behind that. So yes.
The other course that I remember that was very successful was engineering music or computer music.
Oh.
Computer music, and it was a very well-attended course, and the students created musical pieces, computer musical pieces, and then we had a beautiful concert at
I
the
think
end.
we're doing that today. Yes, we are.
And that's a sign of successful courses, that you
Yes.
started them,
Yes.
25 years ago, and they still are running.
Yes, it's
That's a sign
wonderful.
of success.
Yes, all right, thank you. Naomi, we're waiting to hear. You're keeping us in anticipation. What happened?
Well,
Yeah, Naomi.
it wasn't me. So between
kidding.
Neta and myself, Bonnie Bassler was chair, director of the council, and actually, when she started, she asked me to be part of the executive committee. So I was with her during that tenure, and some of you too. And she actually did another survey, we got survey data, and it was kind of similar kind of response. And it was really about like how many people are moving out of engineering and science, and this fact that they were doing it so early, even before like we even really got to them. And so I think that was the reason she kind of shut down everything and just said, let's just focus on developing, she called it was an initiative to develop and revise science and engineering courses to really focus on the role of science and engineering in society, and to just make sure that every undergraduate, no matter their major, would emerge as a decision maker who was literate in science and engineering. And so when, during my tenure, we kind of carried on that in spades, but we also, I think we took pretty giant steps in expanding the reach and the impact of CST. So our work was involved, not only in developing and revising courses, but also in finding new ways to engage with students and faculty across the divisions, to create a community, to create a culture of inclusion around science and engineering, and to innovate new opportunities for students and faculty, for the engineer, the scientist, the artist, the humanist, the social scientist, to engage with science and engineering in ways that were really meaningful to them, that were enlightening, and I think even most importantly, that were empowering. So we really had this vision of, putting tools in the hands of everybody that would open doors in ways that they hadn't even anticipated. And we did this with, formal and informal learning experiences, engaging in research on STEM education and on interdisciplinary collaboration, and just a ton of emphasis on cultivating synergies. And by synergies, across STEM, the arts, humanities, social sciences, really getting into two-way conversations. So instead of thinking about CST as educators of the non-scientists, really thinking about what everybody could learn and that there was a place for everybody, engineering, science students and faculty, and humanists, social scientists, and artists, both students and faculty, to engage with us, to have these intellectual, creative, and just kind of, out of the box kind of experiences that would impact what they did here and what they did beyond. And we did that with lots of concrete things, like we created, many of you here, with our colleagues, we created these experiences, but we created a physical space called the Studio Lab, which is meant to just literally be a place for these kinds of interactions and these meetings, and it's a completely kind of immutable space and for all kinds of ideas. If you walk in there today and you catch one of Brendan's rad labs, you'll see an English major teaching a group of people how to design circuits that will light up their clothes, or you'll see somebody talking about the mitochondrial genomics of bed bugs, or you'll see somebody teaching about geographical information systems for journalism. It's just kind of crazy, and we created a course with, again, a whole bunch of people here, including Maria, called Transformations in Engineering and the Arts. It was sort of the beginning of kind of really super duper cross-disciplinary, where we were bringing people together. We kind of made sure that everybody was, we had a class that was distributed across the divisions, and then I think by the end of the class, we completely forgot who was in which major, because everybody in this class, at least, were becoming engineer artists or artist engineers, and just exploring both, artistry and engineering thinking and doing. But learning the physics of sound, the physics of light, but also, thinking about doing design and composition with artistic goals as well as engineering goals. And I don't know, we created a Living at the Intersection symposium to really bring people in at the level of thinking about research, right? Because everything we do in teaching is connected to our research. We promoted science communication in spades. And then we brought in our students too. We created a student ambassador program, which became an advisory board. And all sorts of committees, and just getting students really involved, and lots of student-run kind of activities in this space. Yeah. I don't know. These are among the things that we did.
Well, I entered the CST, I think, when you were director. That's when I became fully involved. And I think our relationship might have started when Dean Vince Poor sent us to Michigan. And actually,
and
Shirley, you were a keynote speaker there at this
that
engineering and arts.
Yep.
And so there were probably 200 people there. 197 artists and and maybe one other engineer. And I think what we took away from that was that the way most people saw engineering and arts was the engineer enabling the artists. And you and I were like, no, that's not what we're thinking. We're thinking, we work together on the same level, and we build each other up. I don't know how to explain it, but it's this intersectional space.
Everybody is creative.
Yes,
scientists, engineers, and I think this is kind of what we were trying to.
Yeah, and this was the time STEM to STEAM was, the language being said, and the time to explore that intersection of STEM and the arts, which is now one of the 6 methods that the CST uses to achieve their mission. So, yeah. All right, thank you. I want to be cognizant of time. I think what I'm going to do is switch to another theme, and that is current and future impact of the CST. So currently, we're estimating conservatively that about 47% of our undergraduate students directly interact with a CST in any given year. And this is based on data where we can take attendance and we know the numbers. And so it's from CST events and workshops, CST courses, studio lab trainings and equipment reservations, employment internships, student advisory boards, student organizations housed in the studio lab, Pope Prize participants, and student mentorship. So, and this doesn't include the indirect ways, for example, the professional specialists working with faculty on their courses and the kinds of impact, indirect impact. So a pretty large number. For me, this high number implies, but it's not absolute evidence, that there is an impact being made by the CST on campus today. So I want to hear from you. What impact do you perceive the CST to have on the university community, and what value do you think it has? And we could go in any order, and you don't all have to answer this question, but.
I think those of you who are on the faculty right now should answer that question.
I don't know, Shirley, but okay.
The one thing, I just loved listening to this discussion because Maria started by saying that it's enduring but evolving. And that's exactly what I heard as we went down the line, is that with each new group of people involved in the CST, it evolved, it changed, and that's exactly what you need to do if you're going to stay relevant and vital. So I'm thrilled that I'm listening to all of this, and I really wanted Naomi to talk about her course on fish, and with Susan Marshall, which was this combination of robotics and dance.
Is Susan here? Did she come?
Yeah. Oh, there she is. Because anyway, I found that just almost the perfect example.
Well, I mean, I can say that CST was really, a catalyst for what we have since become. We call ourselves Creative X. So we're a group of 20 plus faculty in, mechanical and aerospace engineering, electrical engineering, chemical engineering, civil and environmental engineering, computer science, music, architecture, visual arts, dance, theater, creative writing. Have I forgotten one? I don't know. That's us. And I don't even know how to explain just how incredibly exhilarating it is to be part of this incredibly creative group. We converse, we meet, we collaborate, and it really grew out of this experience at CST. I mean, this was really our home. I mean, we together created the Studio Lab. We together created this engineering and the arts course. I mean, Susan and I did teach this atelier course in 2010, and this was, Shirley had invited me to give a public lecture, and I called it was something like Flocks and Fleets, Collective Motion and Nature and Design. And Susan, who's professor and director of the program in dance here, she had just arrived. It was in 2009. And I think it would never have happened. You would have been too busy. But she was trying to get to know people, and she thought, I do that. Collective motion, of course she does that. And so she showed up, and afterwards she said, hey, would you want to explore this with dancers? Because, we could do some kind of structured improvisation, give dancers the rules that, in my work, I study collective decision-making, collective behavior, collective intelligence. What is it that individuals do in response to others so that you get these amazing, remarkable behaviors at the level of group, like a fish school. And Susan thinks about similar things and what happens when you allow people to do that. So we taught a class, though, an atelier class, in the presence of students, and created a performance event.
So why do you think this is important for the community to do
this is, it is, I think what we found, you were on the council then, and we found that even when the students heard that we were doing this, it was kind of like, we want in. The students were basically telling us they were sort of craving these opportunities to just, to break out of these silos, to be in spaces where they felt, and this is what we feel, somewhat liberated from our disciplinary identities. Not that we don't love our disciplines, but, for those of you who are students or faculty, you know that you can get you can feel siloed and you can feel like there are constraints on your creativity when you get outside of that and you can have conversations. We talked about digital and analog once, and with a lighting designer, with a video photographer, with a computer scientist, with all kinds of engineers. These are things that we found that the students wanted. They wanted this opportunity to just really be able to explore, experiment, feel welcome, whether they were comp lit, history, neuroscience, English, mechanical engineering, to just engage across these disciplines. They wanted to, I think one of the things that CST does an amazing job of is introducing people to other people they would not otherwise meet. And I sort of feel like that has happened in space. I have people tell me, oh, I met, so-and-so, and now we're meeting regularly for coffee because we're talking, and I'll say, oh, what do you have in common? Or well, what are you talking about? And it's incredible because people, we're all more than our disciplines for sure. And I think it sometimes has been scary to say, oh, I'm going to try to work with an artist if I'm a mechanical engineer, or if you're an English major, oh, I want to learn how to build circuits. That could feel scary, not just for students but for faculty too. And you feel like you're not supposed to be there. And so I think it's so important. I think this is the way we are going to be able to come up with all the innovations we need to come up with to face our, exponentially growing problems in contemporary and beyond. I think, when we found that students don't necessarily want to reimagine themselves in our image. They want to come up with new ways and new things to do when they leave. And I don't know, sorry, that's a little bit long-winded answer.
Say that I think what Naomi is talking about is the most important thing, which is unleashing the creativity that exists here on this campus. But let me just introduce a second sober reason why the council is so important today, and that is that we are living in a time when science is increasingly under threat, when it is mistrusted or ignored. And the consequences of this is that there are dangers, really serious dangers that not just here in Princeton or the United States, but the world is facing. And preparing our students so that they understand the messages that science is trying to convey and why those messages are really important. They are not choice facts. Some of them are real facts. And if we're going to survive for another 100 years on this planet, we have to start listening. So the role of the council right now in ensuring that no one graduates from this university without understanding how scientific knowledge is generated and why it is relevant to the world we live in. So,
very good, thank you.
But I love Naomi's
Yeah,
other rationale.
Neta, do you have any thoughts on this conversation?
Yeah, I would like to expand on what Shirley said, and that's one thing that I think is so important, especially today. Students that we have here will eventually go out to the world, and there'll be doctors and lawyers and politicians and everything else. And it is so important that they understand what science means, that they understand how science works. What is a scientific method? We know what the average public, the distribution is so broad from so many people, unfortunately, not trusting scientists, not believing in science, not understanding what science tells us. And it's so important that students that finish here at Princeton and elsewhere understand what science is, how science works, what facts really are. They are not ideas that are up in the sky without any basis. That is what I think is really important to reach to our students with the council and with all the STEM departments, but especially with the council, because the STEM departments will get students that already believe in science. Council should reach to everybody.
Yeah.
And make sure that it's done in a way that is approachable, that is fun, that it's practical, that they feel participating in it, and they learn from it what science is, and then they can bring it out when they go out to the world and maybe lead our country.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Can I add one thing? I mean, just to build on that, I think if I were to make a recommendation for like next steps, it would be to sort of even better institutionalize the role of CST and connect it more with the research part of the university, because like as we all know that nothing that we do in education is disconnected from our own research. And I think, you know, it doesn't conflict with the original mission to educate our undergraduates, but I think, you know, I don't know, somehow institutionalizing it, making these like with the new Humanities Institute, you know, the CST should be in very strong collaboration connection with the Humanities Institute. It should be a thing, you know, more than just kind of Sammy calling to see if we can make some connections. I mean, I don't know how that could be done, but that's my recommendation for our leaders in the university.
You answered the last question I was going to ask.
Oh, sorry.
But that's perfect. No, that's fine. You could just repeat your answer later. That's great. So I think at this point, I'd like to introduce some students. So Sammy and I, when we designed this program, we thought it'd be really nice to hear student voices. And in particular, in this section where we're talking about current and future impacts of the CST, to hear directly from them what they think and what their experience interacting with the CST has been like. So I will say their names, and I guess when their seats come out, you can maybe come. So we have with us Isabella or Isa Gomez from Civil and Environmental Engineering, class of 2025. Yeah. Right next to me, that's fine. So Isa served on the Studio Lab, Rad Lab coordinator. And we have Teo Grosu from Astrophysics, class of 26. And he's on the Student Advisory Board and has done research with the CST. And we also have Audrey Zhang from Art and Archaeology, class of 25 and on the Student Advisory Board and has taken courses with the CST and participated in many, many of the programs. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to ask you the same question that I just asked the former directors, and that is, what impact do you perceive the CST to have on the university community, and what value do you think it has?
All right, I guess I have the mic, so I'll begin.
That's your plan.
I have worked as a student technician at the Studio Lab with CST since my freshman year, and I applied for this job in my first week on campus. I was still trying to make sense of Princeton, and I've enjoyed it so much that I've done it for 4 years. And I've also served as a Rad Lab coordinator, so I help organize the student talks that we have on a multitude of topics ranging from astrophotography to mechanical keyboard making. And so it's just been great to work for the CST. And through my job, I have the opportunity to learn from so many people that come through Studios Lab's door with different project ideas on a multitude of fields, right? And I think this collaboration is super important for the Princeton community. And I think that's the impact that CST has had on me. I've had the opportunity to learn from so many different people. And science is interdisciplinary, right? And learning and getting out of our comfort zones and learning from so many people is super important to solving problems. Like we were saying, solving the complex problems that the world is facing. And so I think being this space, this resource, and this community where students can come in to share their own passions is how I think CST collaborates the Princeton community.
Thank you. Go ahead, Teo.
Yes, sort of continuing on that. I do believe CST is a space where students can come in and sort of like feel agency and feel inspired to like do the things that they are interested in and like sort of receive that infinite support, you know. And the way I was involved with CST, I was a science communication fellow for 2 years. And over my freshman summer, I did science education research. I looked at astronomy education at the college level. And, you know, one of the reasons Princeton is special is because we have so much research going on. And even as an undergrad, you do your JB, you do your senior thesis. And, you know, I think the value in that is that we ask the question, how do we train students to be like awesome researchers and lawmakers? And we're like, well, let's let them work with researchers and lawmakers. And I think CST does that in terms of science communication and science education to some extent. You know, it put me in contact, and it puts other people in contact with people who think about these things, you know. And I think if we want people to live their lives and practice their careers being scientifically minded and thinking how to communicate better and how to educate better, then, you know, they need to interact with that in their time here. So yeah, I'm very grateful for getting to do that and for sort of understanding how I can use my passion for like sort of hard science or like research in astrophysics and build on that and, you know, like incorporate like communication education into that. So yeah.
Thank you, Theo.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with what Teo and Isa said. And well, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here. It's such an honor to be among all of you. And I think for me, the CST is basically like a home. So thank you all so much for all of the warmth. And I just love being around all of you. And it's so cool just being here too. Because I think personally for me, like, well, maybe I should introduce myself. So I've been on the CST SCB for 4 years, and it's just been really cool just getting to know so many people. And I love Sammy and Craig and Dr. George's. I took Dr. George's bodybuilders class. That was cool. And I also took Professor Nagpal's Introduction to Robotics. And that was really amazing. Yeah, so I think for me, I think the CST has had such a profound impact on me because it has shown me infinite possibilities. And I think it is amazing how the CST thinks about different disciplines as a continuum of knowledge where you can create interdisciplinary projects, and that is something that is encouraged, and I think that's really amazing because that's something that I've always really loved. I feel like a bat or so. You can't like really put me into any category. I don't really belong anywhere. So it's like really cool that at the CST, I feel like I do belong in a way that I can create things that might be out of the box and might be unseen as of now. So I don't know. I just love the creativity that is encouraged and nurtured here. So this is a really amazing place to be. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I knew we had a great idea, Sammy, to invite them to join the panel. All right, so let me look at the time because I know I want to leave time for questions and answers, and I want to make sure we end on time or even a little early to give us plenty of time. So my final question has to do with the future of the CST. So we've been discussing the current CST impact, and I want to hear from you about the future. So my final question for all of you, take maybe about a minute each or less, actually, because there's 6 of you. So 30 seconds to a minute. Let's try to. So I would love to hear from all of you, and I think the audience would too. So what do you want to see the CST do or become in the near or distant future? So look into your crystal ball. If you could have the CST be anything in the near future, maybe what it needs. I heard a little bit about what it needs and some visions from Naomi, but yeah, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that. And it doesn't have to go in any order. I don't know, do you want to start with the students or no? Too much? Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote something. Okay.
You want to go, Audrey?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
I think, let's see. Well, I mean, I would love for the CST to continue empowering people to pursue their dreams because I really love art and science and creating out that intersection that's like really important to me, and I think it would be really cool to see more of. And I also think just supporting strides to address the climate crisis, hopefully explore new galaxies, like space exploration is really cool, and also create new knowledge of the universe and just understand more of how our universe works.
Yes, I don't have any sort of like grand idea that will revolutionize CST, but I don't think it needs to. I just think it does what it does really well as of now, and it only needs to expand, you know, both on the student front, sort of like consolidating the place that students have in CST and sort of like incorporating them into programming, and yeah, it just also expanding on engagement with faculty. I mean, there's already so many awesome programs, but you know, even at like the introductory science levels for majors, like some techniques or ways of thought could be incorporated. But yes, just keep going and expand.
You love it as it
yeah.
is. That sounds great.
Yeah, that's a tough question because I also love it as it is, but I'll give you my answer. So I've mostly been involved through the Studio Lab, and I think it's a great space where students can just come in and do whatever project they like in whatever field. And so I just hope CST can reach even more students and more students come to our open hours to just chat with us. And yeah, just continue to be this open space, I guess. I don't have any revolutionary ideas.
What I heard is that you want a bigger studio lab.
Oh yeah, that would be great too.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Naomi.
Well, I mean, I sort of spoke my piece, but yeah, I think, I think we've made great strides. I think there's lots more to do. I think there is still, I mean, I don't know. I mean, back when Bonnie was director, we were very worried about people who would say, "Oh, I'm not a science person." And, we don't. It would be nice to have nobody say, "I'm not a science person." And we want to really empower people to feel like, at least they know how to ask questions, they know how to read, and they know when, what resources to go to. And I think that the CST it's a really nimble place. I think it was Corinna who used that word. It's a place where new ideas and opportunities can be tossed out and explored and experimented with kind of immediately in ways that departments can't do. Like we need to kind of get a grant, or we need to, I mean, it takes a longer time for people to really take the time to engage in something, whereas at the CST, we can just, run a workshop, we can throw out an idea, and we can do really out of place. So I think it actually is a really important thing to create more space, to provide more resources, to kind of better situate institutionally the CST, so that we can do things. I remember Sharon. Do you remember Sharon Dela Cruz? She was a professional specialist. She had this idea that if you bring people in to talk about a problem, like I think she did a workshop on mass incarceration, and the tool was 3D printing. I mean, I would never have thought that putting those two things together might have people come up with ideas, but it was a really interesting way to get people to just loosen up. So I think, I think we just need more of this. I think, it's not that siloing is always a bad thing, but I think if people can at least intellectually step outside of their silos, sometimes it's really important to, so for, scientists and engineers to understand how much we need humanists, and for humanists and social scientists to understand how much they need engineers and scientists in their conversations. I think, onward and upward.
I think doing various innovative programs that can reach to those who, as you say, are afraid of science, or I'm not a scientist, I don't want to deal with the Council on Science and Technology, that will help bridge some of the gap that we have with those who are, science is something we don't want to get close to. And there may be programs of panels, a special day to celebrate. We had one special day during our time where we celebrate Einstein's 100th miracle year, where he did his important work, and was a whole day, and the community of the campus all came together. It was students, and it was an exciting topic, so we did all kinds of events during that day, and faculty and students came from all departments, humanities, science, and so on. So there can be made special events that can, we design with exciting topics to attract those who don't want to get close to science. One possible thing is to have something special and exciting to get faculty from humanities to participate in some event where you share with them what the council is doing, some of the excitements of science, and they can reach to their students as well and direct them in that direction. So there are various innovative ideas that one can do to try and get the students and faculty who are not as connected with the sciences.
Thank you. Shirley?
Well, I'm going to go up to 30,000 feet and say that as I was thinking about this conversation, what kept going through my mind, honestly, was Princeton in the nation's service and in the service of humanity. And what we've heard on this panel is the way in which I think bringing out the creativity of everyone on campus and ensuring that we are graduating individuals who appreciate and understand science will make sure that we are, in fact, serving the nation and humanity. So I think we've heard wonderful visions here, and I'm very excited to see what happens next.
All right. Thank you. So at this point, we'll open it up to questions from the audience. And Sammy, are you moderating the questions, or am I? Okay. All right.
Yes, there's a mic coming. Give us just a second, right here.
All right.
Hi, thank you so much for the great panel. I'm Kathy. I guess my question is sort of, we've all heard a lot about how CST is really striving to educate non-scientists about science, but I was wondering a little bit more about what CST's role is in educating scientists about things that are not really science related, especially in the age where science is very mistrusted. Pseudoscience is being perpetuated and permeated in a lot of different spaces. It's really important for science to be understood in a way that non-scientists and laymen also understand. So what is sort of CST's role in making sure scientists are also artistically minded or humanities minded?
Yeah, good question. Well, your question, I immediately began to think of a course that I taught really over the last 10 years called Modern Genetics and Public Policy. And the great thing about this class, which was taught in SPIA, is that it had students from across the entire curriculum. And what we were really trying to do for those 12 critical weeks is we were trying to understand the way in which modern genetics is creating, very significant public policy issues that, everything from gene editing to gene drives to the modern eugenics. All of those things are really important. And what I found was that the scientists in the class were deeply engaged with trying to understand the implications of the work that they were doing in their science classes. So I think it's opportunities like that that are going to be absolutely critical going forward, so that it is not simply that the humanists and the social scientists are learning a little science, but in fact that the scientists are learning to think about the work they do in the context of the world.
Yeah, and I'll just add that we have programs for graduate students and teaching them how to give an elevator pitch of their research they do. So communicating the science to the non-scientists, we have those kind of programs for the graduate students. And as Naomi said, we have in the classroom a mix of all majors, and they have to work together on projects. So they have to learn how to communicate with each other using a vocabulary that may be common to one another. So there's a whole lot of opportunities with the CST to learn to communicate in that way. So
yeah, we have a slew. There's just a slew of courses at these intersections.
Yeah.
And they attract students from all, they're in the spirit of Shirley's course. So everybody is getting mixed together and learning about, all sides of these stories. The 4 assistant directs and associate directors of CST here are teaching these incredible courses, exactly like, Vivian's course on, it's called the glass class, right? But learning about science and art, but the chemistry of glass, and
possibly having some connection between, and I don't know if you've thought about it, between the Council on Science and Technology and the Council on the Humanities. We did it with our postdoctoral program, and that worked really well.
Yeah.
But if there are some other ways to have a connection between the Council on Science and Technology and the humanities,
Yeah.
that will connect the two and bring scientists to understand better. We started understanding better what our colleagues in the humanities are doing.
Yeah.
And that was extremely helpful. And they understood better what we are doing.
Yeah.
And that can percolate then to students, and there can be programs connecting the two.
Yeah. All right, so I'm getting the signal that time's up. Yes, unfortunately, we are out of time.
So everybody, can you please join me in thanking our panel for their insights, for their thoughts. So grateful. I just want to share, as someone who actually studies the history of the CST, I read, I research it, I've looked through all of the annual reports for decades. There's something so amazingly wonderful about hearing from each of you and really putting everything into context and having a better understanding of where we came from and, of course, now where we're going. So we're so grateful to all of you, and I hope you also know that we're very aware that everything we do is built on the shoulders of the work that you did and the brilliant programs you put together. And we think about that all the time. And we hope that you hope that you feel we're doing you justice by the work that we're doing today. As far as the students, everybody in this room knows the best part of Princeton is the students that we get to work with, and you three are certainly no exception to that. We're grateful for your time. The worst part of working at any university is that you graduate. That is absolutely the hardest part, but I want to thank you for your time and thank you for helping us become a better CST. So I just want to thank everyone. One more round of applause, please, for our amazing panel. And now, I have the pleasure and privilege of inviting you out to our showcase. Our tables are there to show you the courses, the programs, the events, the partners, the collaborations. Plus, there's wonderful food, that big birthday cake, and lots of merriment. And then we have a performance at 6 o'clock from Plork, the Princeton Laptop Orchestra. So please join us, have fun outside, and thank you again, everybody, for joining us for this event. We're so happy to have you here.